Good morning, good morning, good morning. So let's open with a little bit of a thought here. For those who receive knowingness, and we may have touched on this last week, for those who receive knowingness, no explanation is necessary. For those seeking signs, no explanation is possible. Okay? So that's good. Do I have a plan to come back to the Czech Republic in the near future? We would love to join some of the seminars there. We'll see what's happening with them. Just keep asking, and we'll come. There's always a fascination around the unusual, the spectacular, the phenomena, the paranormal, the supernatural. There's a demand for these signs. There's a demand for these signs and these signals because we just, get a little bored with the ordinary. We do. We get a little bored with the ordinary because it seems overly ordinary. The truth is, that's perfect. Absolutely perfect. We look at, the spiritual instead of the physical body, forgetting that the full human experience is the physical and the spiritual. All very important. We don't want to get too carried away with the physical. We think our focus is somewhere other than maybe we want it to be. But the truth is, I just don't think you lose your spirituality if you brush your hair or wash your face in the morning. Really, it's all of us about presence. Hello, Anka and Christina Dominguez, I see. Good to see all of you. Sometimes I would overlook the ordinary because it was ordinary. And then I would get used to things that at first seemed extraordinary. And then I treated them as ordinary, and then I would sort of overlook them. An example I use sometimes is television was an extraordinary miracle when it first came about, And now some of us just flip it on to have background noise and flip it off when we leave the house. Don't pay any attention to it. And then others of us decided we don't want to watch it. Anyhow, it's like, what is the phenomena? You get so used to it, you become habituated to it that we don't pay attention any longer. Like ordering the same thing in a restaurant because we loved it the first 2 or even 3 times we had it, and then we get used to it, and it's not all that phenomenal any longer. I'd like to say that some things are not susceptible to this. I'd like to say that I'm not susceptible to that, but neither of those two statements are really true either. I mean, what could have been more phenomenal than when I started witnessing my patients having healings unexpectedly, And they started speaking in voices, and other people were able to learn to facilitate the healings. And it was all I wanted to do day in and day out was facilitate healings in my office. And then at some point I wanted to teach it, which is a wonderful sharing because the consciousness of it is, if I can see 8 people in a day, if we train 100 people, then there can be 800 healings a day in the world. If we train, 1,000, there can be 8,000. 100,000, there can be 800,000 healings a day. And that's very phenomenal. And yet facilitating healing after healing after healing, as dramatic as they were, simultaneously, I sort of habituated to them, and they became just ordinary at a time. And it's easy for us to become a little bored with the ordinary. Sometimes we need to remind ourselves how inherent and valuable simultaneously the ordinary is. Look at the word. We hear this all the time, the way we used to talk about it, and then Joe Dispenza and other people start to talk about it, and they break down the word extraordinary into extraordinary. But it is. It's not unusual, in the words of Tom Jones. It's not unusual to have the ability to facilitate healing for yourself and others. What is unusual sometimes is us waking up to the recognition of that. That's a little different. Waking up to recognize that this is who we are is phenomenal. The recognition is of the ordinary, the normal, the usual, is phenomenal to us when we had wandered or turned away from it. And yet it's not phenomenal. What sits within us as purpose? At the core of our being, and I believe we mentioned this too, at the core of our being is a drive to find and fulfill our life purpose. This is very important for us to recognize that. And we allow for a lot of fears to keep us from that. But who's in fear? It's the ego, it's the personality. What if I don't get the results I'm looking for? And so we have to explain sometimes. We have to say, we don't know exactly the results that will show up in each healing session. I mean, we receive the most beautiful, loving stories of, all the time from the healing sessions that Jillian and I facilitate, via distance, and I'm sure some of you do too, of these healings. And yet we also know we can't go in there and focus on what someone thinks is their desired result, because it's not the best for the healing, it's not the best for that person to be so focused on a symptom, and we can't promise that kind of a result to begin with. So we always say, if you're lucky, you'll get the result you're looking for. If not, you'll receive something else. Great. And we can say, there are no promises or guarantees that you'll get the result that you're looking for. And then sometimes we might say, well, there are no promises or guarantees in the healing. And people say, well, there are no promises or guarantees in life. But there are. When we say that there are no guarantees, we say that, and yet there are guarantees. It's just that the guarantees may not necessarily be guaranteeing us the results we think we want. And there's the focus word, we think we want. Is what we think we want what we want? And that's very important. Is what we think we want what we want? If we can come to a recognition and therefore allow it to be all right that we can't guarantee specific results in a healing. I mean, look, you can get in a car to go food shopping. You can't guarantee what you're going to the market for will be there. You can't guarantee that you'll get to the market in one place. We can't make guarantees like that. And maybe we want one thing in our minds, but is it what's optimal? Is it what we truly might want or desire? These are some of the thoughts and questions that we might choose to look at, and we might not want to look at them. That Mark Twain quote, the two most important days of your life are the day that you're born and the day that you find out why. I say the universe is counting on you to fulfill your purpose. The purpose you came into the world to fulfill. Now, by being present, we're fulfilling it anyway. We just might not be fulfilling it in the way that our minds have determined that the universe wants us to do it. Healing doesn't occur in the mind. The understanding of the essence that we are doesn't make itself clear in the mind and can't be manipulated by the mind. Our choices allow for fulfillment that our minds may not understand. So what do we do with that? I would say strongly that when we allow ourselves to be in recognition of our purpose, to have a knowingness in it, we shall we say, come more into alignment with our essence, what we might say is our divine power. It's as if, or maybe it's not just as if, maybe it just is, that the universe comes with unlimited motivation and resources allowing us to fulfill this, allowing us to move forward in this understanding, allowing, in healing, it's allowing ourselves to help others, help others, help others. With healing, we find that this allows the people with whom we interact to step into their own greatness, and that is the stepping into our greatness. So what do we do with that? Or are we able to allow ourselves to be with that, to ultimately be that? I think that's really important. It's not always compelling, the idea of being. And yet actually being, there's nothing more compelling than that. So what does that mean? Well, the idea of being, so, oh, I'm just going to be that, sounds pretty, dull and boring. Because our words can't describe the experience of being, which is infinitely, I don't even know that I want to use the word compelling. And I guess it is, because there's no other place you want to be. And yet in thinking about it, we sort of confuse being with nothing, and the idea of nothingness sometimes gets confused with nothing, and they are hardly the same. By the way, some of you know that there's that little box down here for requests for those of you who want to join or comment or talk about something or ask a question. You're welcome to go into that box. Sometimes it doesn't work and sometimes it does, so we never really know. I was listening to the concept of ritual. Ritual, when it has purpose, has amazing value. The purpose of allowing ourselves to come into presence. But ritual overdone defeats that purpose. Ritual on a schedule defeats that purpose. Oh, it's the, 27th Sunday of this year, and on this day we're supposed to do this ritual. It's a little mundane. It becomes superfluous, and then oftentimes we do it for a distraction. I remember someone talking about a drive they took from LA to Sedona, and they said, oh, it took so long. I said, why did it take so long? I said, well, we stopped every half an hour to do a ritual. Really? For what purpose? To feel like we're doing something special, but what was the purpose for that, other than turning an 8-hour drive into, 16 hours? Sometimes we use it just to be a distraction or a diversion of attention because we're not sure we want to give being a chance to show itself to us. We're not sure we're all right if we're not doing. How do I become more? Well, how is already asking, what do I do? Again, when we are distracted and out there, sometimes a ritual brings us into presence. But ritual after ritual after ritual becomes a distraction, a diversion of our attention, our clarity, our focus. Ritual at appropriate moments and situations has its value. Ritual for the sake of ritual, you might want to rethink that. You might just want to rethink that. sometimes not trying to be more, to be better, to be more spiritual, to be a greater healer, might just be the key that we're looking for, the doorway, the portal that we're looking for. It may bring about the results that we're looking for, and then we start to realize that the results that we were looking for were merely signposts along the way of our continuing. We want to use these words expansion or evolution because it appears that way. Because we start discovering what we hadn't seen before, and when we discover it, we think it suddenly appeared. But really, it's just the continuous unveiling of the fully evolved beings that we are, of the enlightened beings that we are. We think that as we unveil and recognize our infinite enlightenment, that we're becoming enlightened, but we can't become enlightened because we are. When we allow ourselves to or begin to recognize this makes perfect sense. Until we recognize it, we say, well, I don't see enlightenment in myself, so what is this? Mind over matter has nothing to do with mind. It has to do with being and recognition. Healing does not use tricks. It doesn't use hypnosis or mind over matter. It doesn't require protections or rituals, except maybe as we discussed it may help, or procedures, clearing, cleansing, purifying. It doesn't depend on objects or perfect energy point locations on the planet. Astrological coordination doesn't require anything. People do. We do. We think we require something. But healing is. So it's funny, small parts of it. Can you give a personal example? I'm leading up to an optimal example, was in my mind. Really, again. And I go back to an example, obviously, because examples already happened, so they're in the past. It's like when people begin a story and say, when I was younger, I said, well, when you started the sentence, you were younger. Or, what so-and-so said before they died? I said, I'm pretty sure they did say it before they died. But anyway, so can I give a personal example? Sure, from the past. That's me making fun of myself, but yes, it's from the past, obviously. When the healings were happening, when they first showed up, they greeted me almost like a bucket of water thrown in my face. My patients were not coming in looking for healings. I wasn't trying to facilitate healings. None of us were expecting it. That's when the portal is the most wide open. When we are least trying. Think of something that you've tried to do. Or something that you want, and think of trying to do it or accomplish it right now. Just think. Try. In your mind, in your memory, in your future imagination, try for something. Right now with me, sense yourself trying. Try a little more. In your imagination, try more, try more, try more. Where do you think the expression try harder means? Because the more we try, the more we are in effort, the more we are constricting the flow that allows us to be in our nature. Our nature is a flow, an inflow, an outflow. It's open. There's no constricting. because there's no trying, there's no effort. You walk outside and you feel the air and you see the flowers, and it's just a sense of a perfect temperature. You didn't try to have the experience that beautiful day's weather or views or fragrances of night blooming jasmine or whatever are bringing you. If you try, it becomes a stop-start. Oh, I want to try to enjoy this flower more. I want to try harder to bring in this fragrance. Trying, efforting does not sustain. Eventually, we let it go. And the moment that we let it go, or the moment before we have it, everything is present. And since we are one with everything and everyone, it is our presence, our beingness. It's what we would call counterintuitive. It goes, although intuitive is a questionable word here, but it goes against our thinking mind. Our thinking mind believes, no pain, no gain, try harder. Our ego strives to accomplish. It's more effort. The mind, the ego, trying. Ultimately, techniques in healing will lead you where you want to be. It will just take time. The illusion of time. Depending on how soon we get bored with our effort to maintain them, and we allow the techniques to do what they're designed to do, which is self-dissolve. And then we recognize that we are one with everyone and everything. Why? Because the trying, the efforting is what keeps us divided. In healing, one energy technique accesses something different from another. And so we keep learning more and more. But when we allow the trying, the division, the otherness that the techniques keep us in to dissolve, and we will let that happen, either out of intentional choice or out of just being caught off guard, becoming bored enough with it that it dissolves, or just going, I've had enough, is suddenly when we discover that we are one with everyone and everything. So Svalbard 333 says, is what you want us to understand is to be curious and lovingly detached. Yes, with a big and, followed by 3 dots. Curiosity, depending on how it's approached, can also be an efforting, a trying. And yet, in the wonder of observation, then we are in that infinite, natural state of curiosity. Scientists' curiosity are explored through research, which requires a lot of thinking and planning and effort. And that's wonderful. It brings about a lot of interesting discoveries. And yet, the discovery of the infinite love and being that we are comes in the observation. If I'm walking outside, and I was in San Diego about a month ago. And I stepped outside, and suddenly the fragrance of, I think they were jasmine, just swept up into my being, into my nose. It permeated me, and I was in such wonder that all effort disappeared. I wasn't looking for it out of curiosity and searching it. I was in the experience of it. Now, the more we allow ourselves to let go of the trying in what we are curious about, the more we are in that awe of curiosity being lovingly revealed. That, to me, is loving detachment. That, to me, is where we begin to discover more and more. So, here's an example of curiosity. Normally when we're sharing on an Instagram Live, and I'm talking on something, there are a lot of people who, put into the request to join for questions. And today, I'm not seeing names in there. So I can just gently find that curious and go on from a point of loving detachment. I can go into the personality, the ego, the mind, and start saying, is this not interesting? Or is this so interesting that people are just listening? Are we exploring? Are we discovering? These are various levels of curiosity without attachment. Now I see in here, Svalbard says, there is an awe book by, is it Dasher Keltner? Dacher, Keltner. I'm reading this, so it's in the comments if you want to see it. He says, awe has 4 cool qualities. Moral beauty. Yeah. Awe by itself is simply moral. I get that. Collective effervescence. Absolutely. Communing with nature. Oh, and I love this. Spying on the divine. That's so beautiful. So it's the Awe book by Dasher Keltner, Keltner. 4 cool qualities of awe. Moral beauty, collective effervescence, communing with nature, and spying on the divine. Look how gorgeous. Look how beautiful. All right. Now, here comes the second part of a request. There are 2 people in the request box. When I click on them, does this actually pick up? So let's find out. One person. Oh, I think I was up. Carla Sophia, I'm looking to accept. Oh, here she is.
Oh,
Hello.
God. Hello.
Hi, Carla Sophia. Where are you joining us from?
From Portugal.
Great to see you. What brings you on today?
I just arrived and I put this on the. I'm sorry, my English is not perfect. Okay.
Neither is mine. Doesn't stop me. So what?
Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you. What would you like to share or talk about?
I just share. I already make the try the reconnective healing and the reconnection, and I feel a lot of the benefits, if is the word, and I don't know why.
Can you share a little about them? What were some of the benefits for you?
Oh, I feel a lot on my physic body, like healings when I have some problems with my lowest part, and I feel on my consciousness.
Conscience?
Yeah.
Consciousness. Okay.
Yeah, and I feel a lot spiritual.
So if someone said to you, well, how does this show up for you in your life? How does the change in the physical or the consciousness affect you in your life? What could you tell us? What
Was
if you know?
a big change. I never read a book since my maybe 30s, and when I make my third therapy, I was like my consciousness open, and my first book I read all the book was your book Reconnection.
Oh.
And yeah, my first book in 30 years. And a lot of things change, big changes.
You want to share one or two of the others?
One of the things I dream a lot, and I stopped to dream, but when I dream was like messages.
Good.
You understand?
Yes.
I feel so many things was a big and now it's in the process too. It's not stopping. And I make the course with Christina in June.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's waiting for see what is changing more.
Very exciting. Well, thank you for coming on and sharing some of these things with us. I was talking a little bit in the beginning about how in facilitating healings, it's so dramatic in the beginning to see the lives of people that are being affected, such as you. And then when you get used to it, on and on and on, sometimes we stop. We have to remind ourselves to pay attention to how dramatic these changes are. We're facilitating. Sometimes we become, I use the word habituated. We get used to the same thing over and over again, no matter how hugely important it is. And sometimes we need to really pause and listen to people such as you sharing the effects in your lives that once you learn, as you'll discover reconnective healing, that you'll be facilitating for other people in their lives. It really allows us to recognize that we are all here as light. Energy, light, and information for everyone. And we can't sequester ourselves. We can't say, well, just in this situation, just for this person. There's no just, because as whoever was facilitating your reconnective was facilitating thinking for you. Think of the lives that you have just touched now by sharing your story. Just by your
Well,
presence.
yeah, because I share with everyone was so strong for me. I start to share with everyone, and a lot of people try, not with me, but with another persons, and all of them feel the difference in their lives.
Beautiful. Well, you're a gift for joining us this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you
And
so much.
I hope you'll,
Nice.
join us on, other Wednesdays here. And also to let you know and everyone else that we always finish around this time. It's 10:30 in Chicago, 11:30 in New York. It's probably whatever time it is for you. And in about
4 o'clock p.m.
4 p.m. Okay. So
4 p.m.
in half an hour, we have a group called Solomon Speaks. We have a Solomon study group, and that's free. It's part of the Reconnective healing community. Come join it. It's free. We talk about the insights in Solomon. We share, we discuss, and we'd love to have you be a part of it. All of you and everyone.
Yeah.
So, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right. Bye for now.
Have a nice day. Thank you.
Too. Okay. And for those of you in the Chicago area right now, this evening, if you want to come, I'll be giving a presentation at, it's called Inner Haven Art Gallery and Spiritual Bookstore. So if you want to come, I'll be there, everyone. And, well, obviously, Carla Sophia, you'd have to take a plane ride and you'd miss it by the time you arrived, but we'll talk another time. Anyway, thank you all for coming. It's a pleasure. Hope to see you next week. Until then, lots of love, and hope to see everyone in about half an hour in the Reconnective Life community, the RLC, at Solomon Speaks.